I remember feeling, while I was watching the movie, feeling like I was actually in a concert rather than in a movie.
Welcome to Burnt or Buttered Quick Movie Reviews. I'm Stetson.
And I'm Toast.
And we're here to help you decide if this week's movie was a buttery masterpiece or a burnt disaster.
So here's how we do it. First, we pop things off with a quick, spoiler-free introduction to the movie.
Spoiler-free?
We try. Next, it's Behind the Butter, where we talk about the filmmaking, the scene direction, the acting, the coloring, all the things
that you probably don't care about, but we like.
But we'd care about. And we like to think that we're good at commenting on it. We probably know nothing.
We know just enough to think we know something.
Yeah. So, we end the show with our rating in the final pop, where we tell you whether this movie was a buttery masterpiece or a burnt disaster.
And just so you know, my scale is always correct. So sit back, grab your snack, and let us guide you through the good, the bad, and the buttery.
All right, let's pop things off with A Complete Unknown, the new Bob Dylan biopic, directed by James Mangold, the guy who brought us Walk the Line, which was the first biopic that I remember caring about.
And he couldn't stay away from Johnny Cash that long. Brought him into this one too.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't even think about that.
But it wasn't the Johnny Cash we fell in love with at Walk the Line, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Timothée Chalamet is young Dylan, who goes from Minnesota all the way to New York and has his rise from folk music all the way to his electrifying performance at Newport Festival in 1965. And it was quite the freaking mic drop moment.
Yeah, electrifying. The supporting cast also includes Monica Barbaro as Joan Baez and Edward Norton as Pete Seeger, the godfather of music.
I wasn't expecting Edward Norton to be in this movie, but I was happy that he was there.
Yeah, he really feels like kind of a grandfather figure to me now. After watching this movie.
So, A Complete Unknown, is it a masterpiece in the making, or is it like a song that's out of tune and just falls apart? Let's get into Behind the Butter and see how it held up. What did you think of this one, Toast?
Yeah, so first of all, there were so many shots in this that were just really beautiful. I felt like the framing was really good. They did a lot of rule of thirds shots, which was cool. And I mean, that I'm not much of a Timothée Chalamet fan.
Which is ridiculous.
But when he's cast correctly, I do like him. And this one, I feel like he was cast correctly.
Watching the trailer, we saw this trailer probably freaking 10 times before seeing this movie. And honestly, from the trailer, I did not want to see this. Like, the voice that Timothée Chalamet decided to use for Bob Dylan, I haven't seen a lot of interviews with the Bob Dylan. I'm sure it's really close to how Bob Dylan sounds, but in the trailers, it was pretty annoying. And I was like, man, I don't know if I can watch a whole movie where Timothée Chalamet is talking like that. But there was something about the character that it all worked, and it felt very, very right.
Yeah.
And the way that they made Bob Dylan the not caring asshole that he is, apparently, was interesting and fun. Like, it wasn't in your face that Bob Dylan just does not give a crap about anybody. It was like you discovered it throughout the movie in very, very, very subtle ways, which I thought was engaging in a way, but also interesting to see how they were bringing to life this character of who this real life guy is, and it felt very real.
Yeah, it definitely felt real. I've been listening to Bob Dylan ever since I left the movie theater, essentially, and I feel like Timothée Chalamet really did a good job of capturing the essence of Bob Dylan. Not necessarily the voice, but he has the same feeling. It felt authentic. I remember feeling, while I was watching the movie, feeling like I was actually in a concert rather than in a movie. A few times when people started applauding, I thought about clapping because I was like, oh, this was great.
I mean, the first like glimpse of that is the concert that Edward Norton's character is hosting, and Bob just met Edward Norton, or Timothy met Edward Norton just earlier, and he was there as this unknown person that Peter had seen just something in him, knew that something big was going to come from this kid, and he's just there watching this, and Peter was like, I'm going to get you on this stage. And that first like performance of him getting the crowd involved and singing the song, I thought was like really, really inspiring, and it hooked me into like the whole singing aspect of the movie.
I even, when he was, they showed this scene in the previews, but when he was just singing in Pete's house, I felt like that was a really powerful scene.
Super, super powerful. Like, where this family was discovering that this guy is special. Yeah. You know, that he wakes up and the first thing that he does is he's writing music. That's all that he cares about, is writing music, getting songs out of his head. And yeah, even the very, very first scene when he's in the back of the car, you're thinking like, oh, he's in the back of like a family car or something like that traveling, but it's just a random person's car. Yeah. And then he goes to the bar. He's like, oh, I was just in New Jersey. He's trying to find, I can't remember the other guy.
Woody Guthrie.
Yeah, trying to find him, and it was interesting, like this the bond that he had, and then the goodbye from Woody Guthrie was powerful in its own way too.
Yeah, without words. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, I felt like overall, all the performances were really strong.
Yeah, I thought the performances were strong. It was paced really well for how slow it was. You know, it's interesting because we've had some movies in the last little while that have been really, really slow, some movies that have been really, really fast. And this pacing of this movie, I think to a certain person it might feel slow, but it was interesting enough and engaging enough that it felt like you still wanted to learn more. And you're seeing this evolution of him slowly just not caring more and more and more. And it's just so subtle that you kind of get lost in the subtlety of him.
Yeah, I feel like you also see him internalizing a lot of desire. You know, like he goes back to the same women all the time, and it just seems like he can't get past these people. You know.
Well, and I think that like with that too, there's a comfort into the idea of him just being the guy sitting on the end of a bed writing songs. Yeah. You know, when he was writing his letter to Johnny Cash and talking about that the fame just ran him over and was crushing him, and it all came at once, and he was kind of hating it. And then eventually getting to the idea of just, I don't care about anybody but me. You know, like, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and that's going to have to be okay. And who cares what anybody wants? Even at the Newport Festival, people are throwing, trash at him, doing whatever. He's still performing. And just
play louder.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm going to perform this because I want to. Like, even if you are booing me and don't care at all, I'm going to do it because it's what I want to do.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do
No,
it.
I was waiting for the moment where he just kind of just like, F you guys, and then gets out of there. But that's an interesting side of it, that he made the commitment to the festival and to Peter and to like all these things. He's like, this is my last commitment that I'm ever going to do for these guys. And I'm going to honor it. I'm going to play the 3 songs and I'm out of here, you know?
But then after they boot him off stage, he comes back for an encore and they love it.
For the song that they love. That was, interesting. What was crazy interesting too was the idea of him making up himself. Like we don't really understand like where he came from or what he does, and it alludes that he just is making up his backstory as he goes. What's her name? Joanne. She called him out on like him making up his backstory, just like, oh, that's complete bullcrap. Yeah. Of him being in the carnival and like all these things, and I thought that was interesting, where he just decides to be who he wants to be, and tell everyone that's what it is, because it's just what you want it to be.
Yeah, it reminded me of the story of Spielberg, actually. He allegedly snuck into the movie studio and just found an empty office and started working there, and people started inviting him to meetings, and they pitched Jaws, and no other director wanted it, so he said, I'll take it. Allegedly.
I didn't know that story. That's a super interesting story.
Yeah, I read a biography on him.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, and that's really evident in this story. It's just like he understands who he wants to be. There's a calling to him, and he's going to make everything in the world go towards that calling of what he wants. But also, he plays the game at the very beginning too. He does the cover album that he didn't want to do with the folk songs. They didn't want to listen to like songs that were written last month, and Sylvia kind of guides him and molds him. And I think that's why he was so connected to these 2 women, because they each taught him something about himself that led him to be Bob Dylan.
Well, and I think he also met them when he decided to be Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. They were the first women that or at least that we were introduced to when he introduced himself as Bob Dylan.
Yeah, and this idea really struck me so they went to the movies, and she was talking about, this woman had like a huge change or something like that.
She went to find herself.
And he's like, no, she didn't find herself. She chose herself.
Yeah.
And that, once he said that, and it was like really important to him that like she understood that, no, she decided to change. Yeah. Like it wasn't this finding or whatever it is. It's like she picked who she wanted to be, and then she became it.
Yeah. That was a cool bit of dialogue.
Yeah. Like I thought, I love almost everything that Timothée Chalamet does. Little
too much.
I really do think he's going to be the actor of our generation. Like he's played some roles that are just too perfect, and he becomes the character so well. Did you ever watch Wonka?
No, I never saw it.
Oh my gosh, dude, you have to watch it, because he becomes Willy Wonka. Like it is so dang believable that he is Willy Wonka. Where just that movie Dune, the very first introduction that I had to Timothée Chalamet was The King on Netflix, and I didn't even know that it was Timothée Chalamet until later on. I just knew I loved that movie, and I just thought that he was super believable in that too. But this movie was no different for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the roles where I think he really nailed it. And maybe if you're a diehard Bob Dylan fan, you won't like it, but
I don't know. Well, I do appreciate too that they stopped doing like recorded performances of the songs. That it's just the actors singing the songs. Yeah. Because the recorded aspect of it in these biopics and stuff just seems so fake and like. Gone. Like the Elton John biopic was a good story of where you could take a biopic too far. you take it a little bit too far.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. That one was pretty wild. That is not one of the ones that I think of as one of the greats.
Well, sweet. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about with Behind the Butter?
I think it's time to get into the final pop.
Let's do
All right.
the final pop.
So for me, on a scale of burnt to buttered, I'm going to have to go pretty buttered. Overall, I just felt like it was shot well, directed well, acted well. Everything just worked together. Like I said before, there were a few times where I felt like I was at a concert because the performances felt so authentic. Buttered.
It's buttered.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, my pick, or my burnt or buttered scale, what would you call it?
Your rating?
My rating. My rating for A Complete Unknown is, from burnt to buttered, it's pretty dang buttered. I would say it's almost completely buttered in the way that it would be like a award-winning maybe film, but I don't think it's going to make it that far. I think that was really good watch. I think that the acting was done really, really well. I thought the script was done well. It's one that you should go and watch and see in the theaters, be part of it, feel that the concert atmosphere, feeling while you're in the movie theater. But is it one that I'm going to want to watch over and over and over again? I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. It was a fun story, and just told very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do feel like from a biopic perspective, it was a great story in the way that it felt like a real life. It felt like we were watching what happened to him in real life, and in the time that it happened, it wasn't glossed up. It wasn't like overdone. There wasn't anything over dramatic that was happening.
Yeah.
It just felt real. It just felt like that's probably how it actually happened.
Yeah. Yep. So that's it for us.
Sweet.
Pretty buttered.
Pretty buttered. So should you go see it in movie theaters? If you want to, go ahead and go see it. You shouldn't not.
I would say yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, let us know what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. Also, let us know any movies that you are looking forward to seeing that you want us to review before you go see them. And we will see you next time.
Pop, pop.
Pop, pop.